Bonjour Pengies and welcome to Pat Penk's Cast, the show that dives you into the world as I see it. I'm Patrick, your host, and today we're tackling the age-old question. Paris, dream or reality check? Join me and four of my guests as we peel back the layers of Parisian charm to reveal what really happens when the city of light meets real life. You'll know all about that in just a second. Stay tuned. Bonjour, my dear Pengies. Today I am promising you an episode that would be as enlightening as it is entertaining. But first, let me welcome you to this episode 7, called Pardon My Expectations, from Season 1, Pardon My Parisian, of my podcast. In this episode, I'll be asking my guests about their expectations before coming to Paris and compare them to the reality once in Paris, whether it's for a visit, a touristic visit, or to reside, to live in Paris. Now it's time for the presentations, and we're gonna let's start by the ones who are in teams. So we have 3 people on Teams on a video conference, and we have I have 2 guests here in Paris, La Défense. Natasha, if you want to start by introducing yourself.
Hi, I'm Natasha. I am in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, USA. It feels weird to have to say the USA part, but I'll throw it in there.
You have to, because we're going international today.
I know. I was in Paris in October of 2017. It was only like 2 days. It was real quick, but I had done a 7 countries in 10 days, like started in London, came around and ended in Paris. So it was a brief introduction to a lot of places. So that was
2017. I was in Egypt back then, so I couldn't see you.
Yeah, the one time I was in Paris, Patrick was somewhere else. I was like, are you kidding?
I know Tasha from the moment I was in the US, when I was living in the US in 2012 and 2013. She was on the radio. She was a radio host back then, hosting a morning show on one of the biggest radio stations back then, right? It's not anymore because we're not going to advertise for the station.
Don't listen to it
Don't listen to it right now.
Patrick became kind of a regular. He'd text in or just send messages and stuff once in a while. So then he just became French fan Patrick is what we called him. So and we always joked that our show was international because we knew of one for sure that was listening from abroad.
Yeah, that was me. You should come to Paris again because from 2017 to now, a lot of things
I'll have
happened.
to double check with your schedule to make sure you're there because, us Americans, we don't get as much vacation time. So we have to really plan these things.
That is true. But now you're a professional podcaster as well. So we have to mention that you have a podcast called Talking with Tasha. The sticker.
Well, I have 10 stickers because I just did a sample pack. But anyway.
Thank you. Hossein.
Hi everyone, my name is Hossein. I'm originally from Lebanon, the very small country in the Middle East. I visited actually France for around 4 or 5 times. I've done already the Tour de France, but mainly, and to be honest, Paris is one of my favorite cities, and actually it's the second best city for me in the world after visiting lots of 50 cities actually in the world and specifically in Europe. Met Patrick back in 2005. We were studying in the same faculty back then in Beirut. And also I've been asked, really surprisingly, by Patrick to join this podcast. It's something I'm really thankful for this opportunity as well, to speak also about Paris, because I also to share my experience and my knowledge about the city that I like a lot. And also to be included in this podcast.
Yeah, it was just yesterday that we had this idea. He should be on my podcast. and he's
thanks a lot.
And he's been in Paris several times, so it made sense. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Jonas.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonas. I'm originally from Sweden and decided to move to Paris a bit more than 10 years ago. I already also did part of my studies here, so already had a good glimpse of what life would be like in Paris. So overall, given the time I spent here, it's obviously a good experience. Otherwise, I would have left it long ago, I guess. But, as a Parisian, I cannot be too positive. It's part of the Parisian attitude, right? Yeah, we'll deep dive into all the pros and cons and expectations one might have.
Perfect. So we move to the Parisian invitees. Teresa, go ahead.
Hi everybody again. My name is Teresa. I've been in Paris for about 10 years now. I work with children and I also work at a university in Paris. Well, outside Juan-Josas, so not exactly Paris, no, but like Zone 5, but outside of the city. And I was excited to be on this podcast because people always ask you why you're in France, why you stayed, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, it's because French people like to complain, and so do I, you know? So, I found my people, So I thought it'd be interesting to chat with other people who are here. Well, I don't know if you guys like to complain like I do, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Americans like to complain too.
100% about everything, And so I was like, well, why not on a Saturday afternoon, talk a little bit about Paris.
True. And Geoff, last but not least, Geoff.
Well, hi everybody. I'm Geoff. I'm French. I'm the French sample for the study. Yes. So I know Patrick from a couple of years now, and he asked me to be on this podcast to discuss, how it is from the inside. I did not grow up in Paris, but I came to visit a lot. I had this opportunity, but I grew up in Lorraine, in the northeast of France. So I would be glad to discuss with you all this information. That would be cool.
Perfect. Well, this is even better that you're not from Paris, because you'll have an external view on the Parisians, and you can even tell us better what were your expectations before you arrived. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. Let's start by expectations versus reality. The idea is to understand, what were you thinking about Paris? What were your expectations before arriving? On several topics that we are going to go through one by one and compare them to the reality of the whole thing. Let's start by your expectations on, let's say, the beauty of the city, the architecture, the streets, the buildings, the monuments, etc. Were you disappointed, or did it exceed your expectations in some way, or was it just like the right thing, the right balance? Teresa, go ahead.
Well, I made a little note about this, and I was like, when I came to Paris, I was like, everything is really old. Just really, really old. And
I have that written down.
Right? Like everything is just super old. And you're like, wow, this stuff is ancient. And things that are like normal, natural, just like basic things like a park, or like a water fountain are just very beautiful here. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's just like, okay, I go to the dog park like when I used to live in New York, and it was trash, I mean, it wasn't very beautiful. But here, just like the park next to my house, which is just a normal one, has like beautiful architecture, and like the water fountains like have little little babies spitting water from their mouths, or like the entrance to the metro is like in that old style, Mm-hmm. Yes, there are rats. Okay, but it's also beautiful, Yeah. So that's the expectation, and the reality is the rats, I think. So,
well, which makes it a good balance, right? So a good thing. You were pretty much satisfied. So, Jonas.
Well, I guess what was struck me is that, if we talk about these more, popular monuments, I already visited them, coming here as, on vacation with family and stuff. So that I kind of expected, and it's really, impressive. But that's also, landmarks which are world known. So you kind of expecting it. But I think what I didn't expect, also living here, is that you would, discover all these, hidden gems. And there's like so many impressive, architecture, buildings that you don't necessarily read about in your guidebooks or anything. Maybe in Patrick's podcast, we can find it out.
We do have an episode coming on hidden gems, so yeah, stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, my first apartment, I was moved in there, didn't have the time really to visit the area, and then a week later, I realized I was living right in front of this. Really cool, what do you call that? Like a grand townhouse, and then once you go inside, you discover things. It's I would say it's got more to offer than what the tourist guides may tell you. But you really need to walk around and let yourself get absorbed.
Cool, Geoff.
My expectations were quite aligned with what I found when I came to Paris, because, as I said, I had the opportunity to come quite a few times when growing up. But every time I come, I only stayed in the most famous and interesting places, like the beautiful places. There's a lot of things that happens in Paris and also outside of Paris, the close suburbs. I was quite disappointed when I first came in, because this was all what I could afford, to live in, and this was not what I was expecting to get.
I have a question, because when it comes to that topic, for French people, okay, for the Americans and for the other countries, usually Paris is marketed in TV spots, or you read about it, or you see it in the on social media and so on. But for French people that are not in Paris, how do you know about Paris? What does the media say? What media do you use in order to know about Paris?
For me, it's very personal, because I did not watch a lot of TVs and stuff growing up, but I did a little bit anyway. So most of my picture of Paris were coming from the TV, especially either news, because you always have like I don't know, documentary, but information regarding, the capital city, and they are shot mostly from the point of view of people that, interesting spot like Élysée and stuff like that. And also TV series, French TV series. For me, Paris was associated with a typical French police shows, like I don't know, like there's a lot of TV series that follows like the policemen in Paris, and they show a little bit more about what is Paris, around Paris, the suburbs and stuff. So I had quite a few idea of Paris from there as well.
Cool.
Julie Lescaut. It's not a really good
reference.
TV show, but it is done.
It's worth what it's worth. Okay, let's move to the Middle East, in Lebanon, Hussein.
So just to tell you, first of all, Paris really, like I've just mentioned, is one of my top-rated cities in the world for me. Whenever I fly to any new country, I start by doing all the touristic places. I finish all those stuff, all the points that needs to be seen, La Tour Eiffel, Champs-Élysées, l'Arc de Triomphe, etc. Whenever I do all of those touristic places on the first and second trip, then for me, I start to blend in within the community inside, and then trying to live how the Parisian, they live their daily life. What do they do on a daily basis whenever they go to work? Which restaurants? How to have fun? What are the activities, the gathering spots, etc. Mainly growing up, and for me, and especially after living in Dubai for more than 6 years, as you know, guys, Dubai is the luxury place, is the most expensive city in the world, etc. It's a little bit, the standards become a little bit high of the expectations, because whenever you say a 5-star hotel in Dubai, you're treated like Aladdin, you're treated like a king or an emperor, which is unfortunately not the case in Europe. So, for example, just to tell you a small example, what happened last time, the hotel in which I was, is the Pullman Paris Tour Eiffel, just in the middle of the downtown of Paris.
Which is supposed to be a great hotel.
Normally, but listen, normally for Europe, it's a wow place for Europe standards. But going back to Dubai, or for example, even to Lebanon standards, I was a little bit disappointed because it wasn't a 5-star service. Yeah. It was maximum for me. It's a 3-star service maximum, because there are many stuff when it comes to the hygiene, when it comes to customer service, etc., etc. But again, for me, when we say Paris is the city of charm, it's the city of fashion, it's the city of love, etc. So basically, Paris for me, I just go into the beauty. I enjoy the beauty of the streets, the architecture. I specifically go out the streets around 6 or 7 a.m. when the bakeries start to open, just to smell the good smells of the baguette, pain au chocolat. When you just smell the baker placing the viennoiserie into his shop to welcome the guests, etc. For me, this is like heaven. You know, this is Paris for me. But again, unfortunately, especially last time when I was in Paris, it was a big strike. There was literally trash all over the streets. Yeah, there was trash all over the streets. And even you can imagine the number of rats that I faced into the streets. This was hectic.
Most probably because of the trash.
Definitely. But just whenever I was in the taxi going to Gare du Nord, it was a total nightmare because we were just jumping like this between the rats on the streets, man. So it was crazy, literally. But again, all of those stuff, despite everything that I saw in Paris, for me, Paris is Paris. Nothing will ruin the image of Paris for me. People are very welcoming. Not all the time you have a dress code to maintain or dress code to respect. Like, for example, in Lebanon or in Dubai, for example, any other city, in London, for example, you are obliged by a dress code. for me, they keep the people, okay, definitely we're not wearing tennis shoes or etc., going like playing basketball or something, but at least people are free. People, they are very well treated. The welcoming is amazing because us in Lebanon, Lebanese people, we are very well known worldwide about our hospitality. How do we treat tourists? And I really invite everyone to visit Lebanon.
We'll have a season about Lebanon.
Definitely. Please, Patrick, include me.
I'm selling my content, my future content.
Of course, unfortunately, I don't like to speak usually about those stuff, but sometimes there's the minimum hygiene which is not respected, unfortunately, in the city. Because I've lived in Dubai, because in Dubai, whenever you walk on the sidewalk, you have a person who is cleaning literally and putting water and some hand gel or something gel just to make shine the sidewalks. This is Dubai, as we all see. Well, it's not the case for Paris.
Yeah,
I spoke a lot, I guess, or
it's okay.
I should bring another.
It's okay.
So
we will edit. No, I'm kidding.
Okay, we can pass. So for me, those are my quick ideas about Paris. But for me, I would never change my opinion about Paris. I definitely visit for the rest of my life. Visit Paris.
Okay, great. Well, another happy person about Paris. So that's great. So Tasha.
Okay, so as an American, kind of like some of you said, Paris is marketed to us as, the city of romance, the city of lights. It's so pretty. It's old. It's, and it is all those things. But it's also when we first got to Paris, we were driving to somewhere, I don't even remember. And I look out the window and there was a guy like peeing on the sidewalk. And I was like, that feels right. Like, I don't know.
Aye.
This is normal. You can find it anywhere.
It reminded me of the first time I went to New York City, because New York City is also in TV and movies a lot of times like this fabulous place to be, but there is like trash and rats and people peeing on the street, so I was like, oh yeah, okay, it's kind of like just an older New York, That's kind of what it felt like.
And you need more public bathrooms for the people, right?
Yeah. Almost nothing in America is as old as anything in Paris. So there is just more history there. It is just more ornate and elaborate and, just a lot of the monuments and buildings. And it is a lot to take in because it's just nothing like it really in the US.
Okay.
No, I thought it was interesting. And like I said, when I was in Paris, it was ending my trip in Europe. And I remember when we were in London, I thought like, oh yeah, this is a lot like New York City. It's just really a lot cleaner. London is a pretty clean city. And then coming to Paris, I was like, okay, it feels a little bit more like New York because we did get a few of the little things like that where you see the rats.
Well, it's a big city as well. We have to take into account.
It's a very beautiful city.
Yeah, it is a big city, but again, it's just not because it's a big city that it should be, it should be maintaining a minimum of hygiene. I think it's, my opinion is that I think it's, okay in some parts. In some other parts, it can be a bit very dirty. Like if you go to the north of the cities, it can be really dirty. But apart from that, rats are everywhere. Let's face it. But the rest is, it's okay. It's not like we're if the trash collection is working properly, I think it's okay. But
I don't know, man.
Yeah, but it's
I was on a terrace yesterday at Châtelet and there was a rat. A rat walked across my feet last night.
Yeah, Châtelet they have to do something about it.
Yeah, and in the kids' park where I watch kids, mice, just like, Ratatouille.
Yeah, I don't know what is the solution. I have no idea what it would be the solution to that, because at some point I heard the mayor saying that she's going to start, some sort of an eradication program on the rats. But I don't know where she's at on this, because we still see them. We still see them a lot.
It's an old city after all, Patrick. It's a super old city. So I guess this is okay. This is not acceptable, but this is super normal because it's a very old city.
Yeah, right.
It adds to the charm, maybe we say. It's charming.
Yeah.
Charming, very charming.
No place is perfect. You got to have a couple rats here and there. It's fine.
Perfect. Jonas.
Speaking about cleanness, I recall one problem that I faced a lot initially, but I must say that it has improved quite a lot. It's dog poop on the street. The number of times I had to wipe off my shoes because I stepped into that shit. But like nowadays it happens very rarely. So I don't know if there's been a change in rules and regulation, or if people are just like
they've put more of these bags that you can use in order to collect your dog's poop. They've put them pretty much everywhere now. If you pay attention, I can see them even though I don't have a dog, so it attracted my attention. So I think this helped. But since I don't have a dog, well, you had a dog, Geoff. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of bag dispenser.
Yes,
I guess everywhere.
So it's strictly related to the fact that you're putting these bags at the disposal of the people.
I don't know. Maybe the road and the streets are cleaned more regularly because there's always stuff cleaning the road or picking up the trash bags in the streets. So I'm not sure it's strictly related to that, but I did notice that Paris streets were more clean.
Cool. Well, then we're moving forward.
Moving on from the poop.
We're progressing.
And the rats.
Well, which brings us to transportation, metro. Oh God, I see that Geoff, the first reaction is, oh God. Yeah. Well, because you take line 13, which is the worst line ever.
Yeah. True.
Oh, by the way, we have an episode on transportation and metro.
Plug that podcast, baby.
And that's true. I recorded it a few days ago with Marie.
We'll probably need a full season to cover that. Probably.
Well, since you first reacted, what do you think about the metro?
I did not have much expectation because I knew how well deserved. Well, this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't know what is the translation in English.
I know. I definitely just say like well serviced, but it's not that at all. You know what I mean? Like they have there's a lot of coverage. Service.
The coverage of
isn't
transportation is very good. Yeah, the coverage of the transportation is quite nice, and I knew that. And for me, it's a love-hate relationship because. Yes, I can do everything without having a car, and it's wonderful. I can pretty much go everywhere how I want it, and I do not mind going in the transportation. Most of the time, it's quite okay. It's difficult on some lines, it's true, and the strikes and the late of some lines make it quite difficult sometimes. It's just then it can add to your mental burden every day, and sometimes just a little bit much, just going from one place to another. You have 3 changes, and the some lines are very, very terrible, and there's a lot of people. The service is degrading from when I came in to now. It's been like downhill. So yeah. That's the strike, the quality of the service.
Okay.
Well,
I see. Well, I agree with you, but now they're doing a project probably to link the different close suburbs together, so that would probably avoid a lot of people from getting inside the center of Paris and then go out. So that could help.
I mean, but when you talk about for the Olympics in like less than 6 months, that they're going to make one ticket €4, I was like, excuse me?
they have to restrict the access, otherwise there's going to be panic everywhere.
Yeah, there's already a lot of people, but the tourists are going to have to use the metro. Yeah. I don't really know any other way that they could do it, because I think the transportation isn't really that great. You know what I mean? The bus system isn't so good, you know what I mean? And then there's night buses, and then the metro isn't 24 hours, for example. True. Like before I was in Paris, I was in New York, and New York has a 24-hour metro situation. Yeah, nice. You might have to wait, but there's a place to wait, and you can be, you know what I mean? And you can take the metro 24 hours. Oh, I don't completely understand the point of closing at like 1 a.m. and then reopening here at 5 a.m. It's like, and then the night bus doesn't run the same route as the metros. It's very confusing.
Very confusing.
Like, you're like, where does it go? How do I get on? And it's also, I think it's very dangerous. Like as a woman alone at night, taking like the night transportation. People will ask you things like one day after work, like some man was like, oh, do you know how to get to this place? And I was like, I can show you, on City Mapper, no problem. And then he was like, do you want to come with me back to my place?
Really?
And I was like, I don't want to go to the Colline de Crac with you. No, thank you, I just was like trying to be a nice citizen and like help you find your way. Like, don't proposition me. I'll bring you back for work in the morning. Excuse me?
Really? Oh, God.
Yeah,
No, that could be really dangerous.
Yeah. So
I think there was some guy when I came out of the transportation one day. He wanted to for me to bring him back home on my back.
Oh,
What?
And he had no justification for it. Just he wanted for me to carry him home on my back.
On your back?
On my back, yeah.
okay.
He was
Oh,
drunk.
wow.
I don't know.
was
I asked
definitely
him
drunk.
why, and he couldn't explain me why. Just he wanted to go
Had a
home
feeling,
with me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
I'm glad
He
you're all
was
okay.
tired.
It was a funny story for a while.
Tasha's dead.
Well, and when I was in Paris, I didn't have to do much with the public transportation, but I have done the subway in New York and in London. We did a lot on the tube. And I think both those places run pretty well. I mean, there were a few delays here and there. And as a Midwesterner, especially in the US where we drive everywhere, we do have some buses and things, but mostly it's a driving place. It is just anytime I travel somewhere to a big city like that, I can't wait to have the solitude of just my car and being able to come and go as I please and listen to whatever I want. And like you said, sometimes I think it would save a lot of money if I didn't have to pay for like insurance and car repairs and all that stuff. But sometimes having your own space. Yeah,
you're
there were times
comfortable.
on the subway in New York City where we got on a train right at rush hour, and I'm only like 5'2", so I was just armpit level with a lot of people, and it was super crowded, and I just like literally had to stand there for a minute and just be like, "It's okay, you'll be okay," because it was like so crowded, and I was just like, like it was a lot sometimes, but yeah, it is nice to be able to drive though too. So
Okay. By the way, just Tasha, you said that you didn't really use transportation in Paris?
no, we were only there for like 2 days, and we
okay.
were
just because
you know
you're-
what I mean. And
just because of that, not because you're like to copy Emily in Paris. She doesn't. She never took the
but I was-
subway for the whole series. Like, come
yeah,
on.
we talked about that, but I was gonna ask. I guess it's really because even in America, like LA is a driving city, Chicago's still kind of a driving city. New York, they don't really drive. Is Paris like? Do people have cars? I guess I don't really know what.
Less and less. I guess it's less and less,
Okay.
right?
And the mayor doesn't want people to drive in the city.
Yeah, especially
Well, there
the
wasn't
mayor.
a lot of parking. Like it didn't look like it would make sense for a lot of
Well,
It's
places.
super expensive as well to have a parking
Yeah,
slot.
yeah.
in
Yeah,
Paris.
very
It's
expensive.
just like New York.
Correct.
Yeah.
The mayor is doing her best in order to pretty much eradicate, probably not eradicate, but I mean to really remove the cars from Paris. That's her that's her goal. Obviously, it's very difficult because a lot of people
Well,
have
traffic was still pretty busy when
But
there was still a
the
lot of-
problem is
yeah.
that she wants to do that, but she's not probably doing. I don't know. I don't want to have a clear.
She'll for sure hear this,
opinion
Patrick.
about
You're-
that.
you're
But
fancy.
the facts are that the streets are as busy as they were before, and probably even busier. So in order to remove the cars from Paris, you should at least put something like an alternatives to the cars, like at least. For example, parkings on the gates of Paris, and then easy access to a good transportation from these parkings in order
like
for
a
people
park
to,
and ride kind of thing.
Yeah, like a park and ride or something like that. I mean, something has to be done. I'm not the expert in this field. Obviously, it's not my job to find the solution, but solutions have to be found in order to remove the cars from Paris, and not just like, okay, we're closing the city. Because sometimes she does that. Like there are Sundays where she wants Paris to be without cars to reduce pollution mainly. But what would happen is that the cars that were not probably aware of the situation will find themselves blocked at the entrance of the city because they cannot get in, and they start circulating around the city, and huge traffic would be created around the city, and that would create even more pollution than the previous day because of the cars that are circulating around the city, and they are like literally stopping because it's a traffic jam. So yeah, I don't know if we're following the right policy here, but the goal is a very good goal. I mean, I support the fact that the city should have lesser cars because we enjoy walking in the streets of Paris. The streets of Paris are amazing. It's like an open museum city. So by walking in the streets, looking up on the buildings, on the monuments and so on, without having to deal with the cars and the honking and the noise and so on, it could be a great experience. So I support the goal, but it should be done in the proper way. That's my opinion.
Well, it's like lip service versus the reality, right? It's like
Yeah.
you'd be like, and we want to help everybody. We want there to be less pollution, blah blah blah. But people still need to get to work. People, you know what I mean? Like who is running the city? There's people who come from far away who don't have access to public transportation because where they live isn't serviced, and then they still need to get into Paris at all times to be able to go to work.
Correct.
So how are you dealing with those people? people. And by closing, by making things only walking spaces, okay, great, there's less cars in the city, but it doesn't mean that those people still don't need to get to work and do things, right?
Right. Yeah.
And now the Olympics and Emily in Paris has been brought up. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but here in America, a lot of the commercials for the Olympics have Emily from Emily in Paris, like presenting here's what I think our athletes should wear, and like doing little, like, it's like a whole thing with her.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh my God. She's here in Paris right now. She's shooting season 4.
Yeah, I saw that the new season was being.
I want to be an extra. I want to be an extra, just like walking around with like a baguette, like ooh la la. You know what I mean? Just like in the back. That'd be so good. They're always casting for that.
Facebook the other day, they were looking for extras. So
yeah, they're always looking for extras. I'm like, oh my God, we should change careers.
We should.
I know you're all probably really annoyed that the Olympics are going to be there, but I'm excited. I love the Olympics every year.
From far, obviously you are excited, but if you live in Paris, I can guarantee.
I'm sure it's going to be terrible for you guys.
That you won't.
Watching it's going to be great.
I won't be able to escape because I volunteered. I will be a volunteer.
Oh God! And there's going to be a heat wave.
Oh God!
I heard there's going to be a heat wave, a canicule during the Olympics. And they're trying to get people, like old people and people who are unemployed, to work security. And I'm like, great, you're going to just have a bunch of old people who just like have a malaise or like, pass out, at the entrance. And then, you know what I mean? Who are supposed to be doing security in a heat wave. I'm like, this is going to be great. Lip service versus reality. You know what I mean? It's like, hello? Anyway.
I guess they should be replicating the same scenario of Qatar. The World Cup was in summer, but everything there was air conditioning, even inside the open air.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But then Anne Hidalgo talks about pollution, right? Pollution, the environment, hand fans.
Yeah, Jonas, on the transportation, do you have anything to add?
I mean, of course, the metro is a critical topic, but I must say, like, I use the metro on a daily basis to go back and forth from work, and I must say, like, of course, it's systematically like very crowded, but then again, Paris is a very crowded city, so you wouldn't expect anything else, right?
Right.
And I must say, like, given the amount of people that have to kind of stand together in this confined space and enjoying each other's morning breath and everything, I think also quite admirative of people's patience, that they're not, that you don't hear more people like insulting each other or punching each other in the faces, especially when the metro is late, when you have these kind of malaise voyageurs, so people falling ill, stopping traffic and everything. So yeah, I would say overall it's running, you never have to wait too long for your metro. It's got good like coverage in the city. You can go basically anywhere, even connects with some parts which are outside of the city center as well. Just open your city map or Google Maps and you figure out your how to get there. And yeah, it goes pretty fast, I would say, to go anywhere with the city's boundaries. But then, yeah, I agree also what was said earlier about during the night hours. I don't understand, like a big capital, why they don't offer service, especially on the weekends. Like,
especially that there is 2 fully automated lines and 1 semi-automated line right now as we speak. So at least these 3 lines can work 24/7. I used line 1. Line 1 is fully automatic, so I'm personally satisfied with it because it's very rarely late or disturbed, or strikes don't really affect that line much.
I think they invest money in. I think there's certain lines that there's more investment in, because line 1 goes where? It goes to La Défense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And line 13, I don't know why, but all of a sudden they don't have any money, huh? You know what I mean? Based on where it goes,
True.
But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Completely true.
Money talks.
Exactly.
Okay, so due to the number of my invitees today, and to the richness of this topic, this episode, pardon my expectations, has been divided into several parts, and that's the end of part 1. So this way I avoid uploading a 2.5-hour episode, which can be heavy. So thanks for listening for part 1, whether it's on Anghami, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Deezer, Spotify, or YouTube. And see you in a few days for part 2, Pengies.